All right, welcome. Let's see, is everybody here? People missing. Right. So last week, let's see, we talked about creating a very simple application using Node.js, Angular, MongoDB. Yes. Express. Is there any particular question? Was that clear? We recorded that session. Yes. Was they ever able to access the recording of that session? Yes.
I have a question. How do you comment that L1 database? I tried, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I opened a malware thing, so I just start with that. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So the question is, how do we, what we did last week, that we were able to have a client, an Angular client, posting to a server, and the server then writing to the database. Now, how do we move that to OpenShift? Right? How do we host that so everybody else can use it? Right. So certainly we'll do that today. We'll move the application we worked on last week. We'll publish it on OpenShift so everybody else can see it. The other issue is, how do I show the TAs the source code? Right. So we want to push to some public repository, make the source code available. Okay. So let's work on those two points today. And then we'll add, we'll make some modifications, some architectural modifications to fix some shortcuts we took last week to fix those as well. All right. All right. Anything else? All right. So everybody was able to see last week's recording, right? All right. So let's. I'm also recording this session so that you'll be able to come back to this and see how you might go about using OpenShift as your, to host the application. Right. You don't have to host it at OpenShift. There's quite a few other sites that you can host it at. But I found OpenShift to be very reliable, very easy to follow along. So I hope today's presentation will help you, know how to do it. Okay. So let's look at what we had working on. I lost the video. Sorry. Okay. Let me see if I'm still recording. Looks like I'm still recording. Okay, I'm still recording. All right. So let's see. Last week we played around with this application called Service Maker. Now that I think about it, I don't like the name. But anyway, let's keep it for now. Right. Let's open that up. And if you remember, we had created a server.js with that included Express, included MongoJS to connect to MongoDB. It connected to a local MongoDB instance. It also we configured it so that it could host pages as well. Right? It could host static content, HTML, CSS, local JavaScript. We also configured it to be able to parse JSON from the body if somebody posted data to us. So the server was able to parse that. Then we mapped several URLs to these functions, right? Following a RESTful API technique that if we mapped a get on a get on a particular URL, we meant that that's some kind of a database resource that we wanted to retrieve. If you did not pass any ID, you meant that you wanted all instances of those entities, right? All records of that particular entity. And so we use MongoDB to retrieve everything without any filter, right? All instances of service clients with no filter, meaning it's an array of all the records, right? Or what we call them in MongoDB, we call them documents. Instead of records, we call them documents. We mapped a post to the same URL as we're interpreting as wanting to create new instances, yeah? So we parsed from the body the JSON that was coming from the client, and we inserted a document. If you retrieved a get with a particular ID, that meant that you wanted a particular instance of those entities. So we use that ID as a filter for the document that we wanted, and then we responded with that particular document instance. Yeah, remember we did all this last week? All right, everybody clear with what we did last week? Okay, I'm just going over real quick. Put, we interpreted a put to the same URL. We interpreted as wanting to update an existing record. So we took as argument the ID of the record of the document that we wanted to modify, and then we used that to filter and find the document in the database, and then update it with data that was in the body, that was parsed from the JSON in the body of the HTTP request. And we responded with the number of documents that were updated, and delete. Finally, again, a delete on that URL, we interpreted as wanting to delete that particular instance. Make sense? This is very much like we did last week. That's the server side. We also had let's see, what else do we have? We had a controller. The controller is the one that listening for interactions with the user. The user, as they clicked on the various buttons, they invoked these functions to create, to remove, right, to update, to select, and whatnot. Yes, remember that? And that generated the URLs that went back to the server. Right, these generated the get, the put, the post, the delete URLs that went back to the server to invoke those URLs that the server's listening on. Everybody okay? All right. Okay. All right. So this is pretty much where we were left off last week. All right. So I want to post this into OpenShift. Ideally, I would have started with a project in OpenShift. I would have cloned it back to my local server, right, on my local machine, yes, and then I would have done all the development there. Okay, we're kind of going backwards, where we already have something. Excuse me. Oh my God. Excuse me. We already have something locally on our machines, and we want to put it back into OpenShift. Right? Ideally, we would have first created the application, blank application in OpenShift, cloned it down, and did all our development there. Okay. Instead, we already have a working local application. We're kind of going to work like backwards. Okay. Trying to finagle what we already have into that online application. Okay. So let's work on pushing this to OpenShift. All right. All right. So let's do that. We need a browser. Let's go to the browser. And we'll go to OpenShift. And I'm going to log in. So presumably you already have a login into OpenShift. I'm going to create an application. I'll create an application, and it's going to be a Node.js. I believe everybody knows how to do this already, right? You log in, you create a new application. And we're going to say I want a Node.js application, and I'm going to give it a name, applications. I want to be able to create applications online. Okay, all right. That's going to be the name of my application. I'm going to say create application. I'm waiting on it. Then the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to add MongoDB support, right? I believe we did that also about a week ago. It's just an additional gear. While that's happening, let's remind ourselves what the application looked like. Let's see, CD. We go into the lecture from last week. It was Service Maker. If you remember here, we had a node. Remember, it was node server, and the application looked something like this. Was it on 8080 or 3000? 3,000, right? So 3,000. Remember, it was this, right? This is what we were working on last week, right? That we could create new service client maker, right? New service clients. So here's app 1 and say add, and it goes to a local instance of a database. It inserts, right? And we can remove it. We can add another one. We can add a third, right? We can select one or the other, right? Notice that it's just changing as I select one or the other, and I can change these, right? I can update them and say update, and it updates in the local database. Remember that we were doing this last week? Yes. Okay, so I want to move this over, and that's where does it live? That it lives in this directory, in this directory. Yes, I want to move this to OpenShift. All right, so I think OpenShift is done. Let's go back. There it is. It's done. I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that git clone because I want to copy down, right, everything that I have in OpenShift. I want to clone it locally, replace most of it with what I have, yes, and then push it back. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna copy that in my cheat sheet over here. I'm gonna make new. There it is. So I don't remember. I don't forget what it is. Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna do it just yet. And I'm going to go to my application overview page. I'm going to add MongoDB. You say yes, add MongoDB. Come on. So right now we're using a local version of MongoDB. We want to use a remote version of MongoDB. So we're going to copy that. Also, I'm going to put it down here in my cheat sheet so I don't forget it. Okay. All right, so now I have both. Yes, I'm ready to pull down from OpenShift a clone of this project, of this application, online application. If I click on it, I see that it goes to this default, plain vanilla, hard-coded version of an application. I want to replace it with my own. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to use their git commands. Oh, you need Git. Has everybody installed Git? A version of Git? All right, so you need. I'm going to go into I'm going to stop my server. That's where we are in the lectures. I'm going to go one up so that I am at the service maker directory, right? Right above that, I'm going to use the Git command, and it's going to say, okay, well, pull down, right, that project, that application I just created online. Yes? I'm going to say yes. Just pull everything down. And there it is, applications, right? Applications, yes? So let's go in there. Let me close everything there. Let's go and open that in lectures, in applications. So they have their own server.js, yes? They have their own version of server.js. I'm going to keep it around. I don't want to throw it away. I'm just going to rename it because I don't want to use that one. But I'm going to need a couple things from there. Right? So I'm not going to throw it away. One of the things that I'm going to need, for instance, is that it's going to be listening at the server, the remote server is going to be listening at a particular IP address, right? And it's going to be listening at a particular port. Right? It's not going to be port 3000. It's not going to be localhost. Yes. I need to configure mine to use their IP address, their port. Make sense? Everybody okay? All right. All right, so let me open up my their server. I'm going to throw away out most of what they have here. I'm going to throw away, well, all of it actually. I'm going to replace it with what I have. Right? What do I have? Let's see. What do I have? Mine is here in Service Maker. That's my server.js, right? That's what I want to push, right? But I don't want to push everything right now. I want to go slowly, right? I want to go slowly and make sure that I do incremental pushes, right? Make sure that I don't break anything. Yes. One of the things that I want to push at least is this Express. Yes. I want to push that Express. Right? I definitely want that Express. Right. I also want that to instantiate my Express. I don't want to push MongoJS just yet, not just yet. I want to push that that Express right here. I'm going to create a new version of app, And the last thing that I want is down below the listen. Yes? I think that's the absolute minimum. That's the absolute minimum that I need for a running application. That's the absolute minimum. The only thing here is that this 3000 is not right, because that's the local port number. I need to be able to configure the remote port number. Yes? Okay. Now I don't remember the name of their port number, but I believe it's these environment variables. There they are. These environment variables. These are the ones that they have from their server.js. So I'm going to copy that into mine. Right, their IP addresses and their port number are in a oops, that's not where I want it. Sorry, that's not where I want it. I want it here. Okay. This is the so the IP address. It's going to be a variable. The IP address. If that's null because I'm running locally, I want to use the local IP address. Yes? Right, so that's the OR over here. I'm going to say, if that fails, if that's undefined, then use instead 127.0.0.1. That's local. That's the local IP address. Yes? And for the port, right, if this is null, right, if this is undefined, use instead 3000. Okay, or 8080 or whatever we want. Okay? And then that listen is going to be the IP of the port variable and the IP variable. Okay? And they're going to be configured to either run locally or remote. Everybody okay? Yes? One last thing that we want to be able to do is, right now if it runs, we still want it to respond to us with something like hello world or something, right? When we hit a URL, we want to be able to do something like app dot and map a get on a particular URL, maybe hello, and maybe respond with hello world. Okay, just to see if it's running, right? If it's alive. So let's see. We're going to say with a response, send back hello world. Okay. Right. Let's try locally. Let's see. Let's go into applications. Okay. And let's make sure that we have the correct content. Yes, that's what we just wrote. Right? This is what we just wrote. Hello world. There it is. You see that? So I'm going to run that locally. Node server runs it, and it doesn't. It's missing. What's missing? We never installed locally Express, right? So let's install that. How do we do that? npm install. Very good. npm install Express. Let's try it again. Node server. Okay, it looks like it's listening. Let's hit it with a client, with a local client. I'm going to say localhost. What's a local? Did we say 3000 or 8080? 3000, right? So 3000 and then hello, right? Okay, comes back with hello world. Let's see. Let's push this now to the OpenShift. Right, to push it to OpenShift, I'm going to stop this for a second. What you do is you need to add first, just to make sure that all new files are added. Okay, I believe we have new Express libraries which we included. Right, let's do that. Let's add everything. Let's commit git commit -am first push to OpenShift. All right, and then I'm going to push git push. This is going to push to OpenShift. It's going to stop the server, right? Deploy all my files and restart the server. Okay. Obviously, the remote server takes a little longer than the local one. So usually what you want to do is do a lot of local development. Once you feel comfortable, you push a big push to the remote server. All right, now that it's started, let's hit this remotely. Remotely, okay. Remember, this is the URL, right? This is the URL, and if I hit it, it's going to say there is no slash. There's nothing mapped to slash, right? So, but there is something mapped to hello. No, if I hit it, it says hello world. So either whether it's remote or locally, I get the same results, right? Remote or local, and that's exactly what we want. Yes. All right, now we want to add the database support. Yes, let's add the database support. Let's see. Okay, this is the vanilla one. And this is our server from where we're copying. We need Mongo.js. Let's copy Mongo.js over. Let me copy and paste it here. What else do we need? Let's see. We had Express. We have Mongo.js. We need that definitely. Right after the Express, right? We definitely need that. And then you have all this DB stuff. You know, after definitely we need that. Public. Definitely we need that. We definitely need that too. Definitely we need all these DB stuff, right? Okay. But let's keep it simple before we copy all that stuff. Right, let's see if we don't blow up just with Mongo.js, right? Well, we copy this over. We copy this over. What's wrong with this? Well, that was a local database, right? That was a local database hitting a local MongoDB instance. Yes? Is that air conditioning I hear? I hope it's not the heat. Anyway, so what's wrong here is that really we should be using the remote, right? The remote URL, right, to the MongoDB instance. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use Mongo.js just yet. And what I can do is look at all this process.env. That variable has all the environment variables, including the connection string. All right, so I'm going to ask what's that? I'm going to create a brand new env instead of hello world. I'm going to do a results JSON. So return to me process env. Process env. Okay. So if I send a get request /env, it's going to respond to me with all the environment variables. Yes, including username, passwords, all the URLs. Okay. Because I don't know what to put in here. I don't know what to put in here. So I'm gonna push that again. I'm gonna say git. There's no new file. I don't have any new files, right? So I'm just if I can always see if there are new. I can see git status. It says that there's only server.js has been modified. That's the only change that has happened. No new files have been added. Okay. So I don't need to do a git add. Okay. It's just enough for me to do a commit. Get environment variables, and push. It's going to push. Now, the environment variables are different depending on where it's running. If it's running locally on my machine, or if it's running remotely on a server, right? So if I run it locally, get node server. If I run it locally, and I hit it with what's the local? This one, right? If I hit it, notice if I hit hello again, it's gonna complain because there's no /hello anymore, right? Right? There's a /env, right? These are all the environment variables. It says where it says where the framework is, where the common files are, where the Java home is, where the local data, everything, right? All pointing to my local file system, yes? But if I do it remotely and I do, again, hello is not going to be there anymore, right? But env is there. These are all environment variables that are running on the remote server, of which one of them is the Mongo. There's quite a few MongoDB things here, right? Like, for instance, the username, where the files are being stored, path elements. Let's see, path element, password, ident, the host, the IP address of the host. What else do we need? Let's see. We're looking for the URL. There's the URL. There it is. There's the URL. Okay. One thing that we could do is remember this URL, right? We could use that instead. Let's use that, right? And the database is whatever database name we want to give it. So let's use that in our code. We're going to say, okay, we're going to require MongoJS. We're going to require MongoJS. We need to know what the connection string is. We're going to say var MongoDB connection string is going to be equal to process.env.OpenShift MongoDB URL. It ends with a slash. See that? It ends with a slash, right? So I could concatenate here the database name, right? And I'm going to use the same database name locally and remotely. Okay, so I'm going to concatenate that string, right? I'm going to ask myself, now this might be null, right? This might be null because I am running locally, yes? How do I know I'm running locally? I'm going to ask. I'm going to say, if type of that is equal to undefined, if it's undefined, then I'm going to replace this connection string. I'm going to replace that connection string to be just that string. That makes sense? If this is running on Mongo, and if this is running on OpenShift, there will be a process env OpenShift MongoDB URL. Yes? And that's going to be my connection string. Yes? If instead is running locally, it will be undefined. And I will replace that string with a local string, with a hard-coded string. Everybody okay? And here, when I say var db MongoJS, I'm going to use the variable MongoDB connection string, which will be either the remote connection string or the local connection string. Is everybody okay? Everybody still with me? Yes? All right. All right. So let's see if this blows up. Where are we? What's going on here? What's this doing? Success, deployment. Let's say node server again. All right, it's complaining because we don't have a MongoJS. We never install MongoJS, yes? Right? So it's very good to first test it locally. Right? If it's going to blow up locally, definitely is going to blow up remotely. Right? So we need to install MongoJS, right? How do we do that? npm, very good, install MongoJS. So install MongoJS. Notice that now we are adding new files. Yeah, so we are going to need to add these files, right, to the repository using if we say git status, it's going to say you modified server.js and you added these new files. See that? So we have to add them. Git add dot, it adds everything. All right, git status. And not all these are new files. I'm going to commit. I'm going to say added MongoJS. And I'm going to push. Git push. Actually, should I have pushed? I don't know. Let's see. We should have tested it again locally, right, before pushing. Okay. So it's restarting the server. It's restarting the MongoDB. Let's test it locally. Node server. Okay, it looks like it doesn't blow up. Right, MongoJS is installed. Remotely, hopefully, it won't blow up either. Right. So locally, if I say refresh env, it still gives me the env. Right. It's running locally. If I do it remotely, it's still running. env is still there. All right. So what do we want to do with MongoDB? We want to. I think we can copy the remaining
portion of this. Let's see. We have MongoDB running. Let's copy the static. So all this part of it is done, right? I think we're done with this. The Express and MongoJS have been configured. Express and MongoJS have been configured. So here, we have the IP address. Okay, so I think we're ready to copy and paste the remaining portion of the code, right? We have all these. We have this Express static. We have a body parser. What else we have? We have all these getters, post, put, right? What else? We have the put. There it is. We have the delete. We have the listen. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it here. I'm going to paste it here. Okay. Let's test this locally. I'm going to restart the server. Start the server. I'm going to hit it now locally. What's the file that it would go to? Let's see. What's the local file that it would hit? Let's see. Applications. We would go to public. Oh, where's public here? Oh, we never copied the public files, right? We never copied the public files. Let's do that. Do you have another directory open? We have in Service Maker, we have the public, right? Let's copy the public stuff and copy it to the applications directory. Let's paste it in here. Okay, there it is, public. Let's try and hit that again. There it is, right? We have the same application running locally, but I believe it's the same application. Let's see. We have app 1, 2, 3, add. Okay, that didn't work. Let's see what happened. It says connect, yada, 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 will be removed from cannot read property ID of undefined. GitHub core, blah, blah, blah. So that, let's debug this. Let's see. F12, let me look at the source code. The source says, let's see the network. If I refresh and I add here app, well, it looks like it's retrieving things. Let's go to the get service client. So that seems to be working, right? It is getting, and it's retrieving things from the database. Let's see why this is not working. App 1, 2, 3. Let's add here. So okay, so service client, the post is not working. The post is not working. Let's see what we're passing. Looks like we're passing app 1, 2, 3. And that should go through our controller, if you remember, right? So let's look at the source code. Let's look at the source code. Where's the source code? Source. The local controller is here. That's local controller. And that's a create. Yes? It's create. So let's see. Let's retry this again. Let's say an add. There it is. And the service client that we're passing looks like it has all the data. The name and the app 1, 2, 3. The URL service clients. Service clients. The post for some reason is not working. Why is the post not working? Let me see. Let me go back to the server. This I'm running locally, right? I'm running locally. Go back to my server here. Locally, what's going on here? Let's see. Well, did we copy something in the wrong order maybe? App, Express. Probably, oh, okay, all these U's need to go before anything else. All these U's have to happen first. Right after we instantiate the application, we need to run all these U's. Okay, so let's try it again now. Probably did this in the wrong order. Refresh. Let's try again. 2, 3, add, running. Okay, that worked, right? I put them in the wrong order. Let's see if let's do another one, 2, 3, 4, add. So how about select? So select seems to be working. Select seems to be working. How about modify? How about I can update something and say update? Okay, that seems to work. I can remove. Looks like remove works. Okay, it looks like everything's working locally. Let's push this remotely. Let's push this remotely. So git status, let's see if there's anything new. Okay, we modified server and we added the public files. Right, so let's add the new files. Git add dot. So add those. We commit. We do a status again. And say, okay, all these new files and this file has been modified. Let's push that to the server. And say git commit. Fixed express order of use and added public files, public directory. Right? Commit, and I do a push. All right, so this is going to restart the server, restart the MongoDB instance. Okay, great. So let me go back here, and this is a remote server, right? This is a remote server. Let's hit it. Okay, looks like we have an index. The database obviously is empty, so we don't have anything in the database. But let's try to hit this with app1 add, and that didn't work. Let's see what's going on. Let's see the console. Load template service. Serves. Let's see when we refresh this that the gets doesn't seem to be working either. Service clients temporarily unavailable. Service clients yada yada. Did we push this? Did we restart? Let me restart the server. This is remote. This is locally, right? This is OpenShift. OpenShift. Applications. Let me restart the server. Restart. I believe we pushed everything, didn't we? Maybe the URL didn't work too well. All right, let's try this again. Refresh. No, it's still service clients is not working. Looks like the public files seem to be working, right? So it looks it's serving the files, right? It's serving index.html, right? So the whole server is not down, but the service clients have not been mapped. Service clients does not see that. So if I type here service clients, the error received an invalid response from upstream server. The proxy server could not handle the request service clients. Is EMV still working? EMV is still working. And why is it not? Doesn't like the remote Mongo EMV service clients. Service clients. Basically, it's this get over here, right? It's this get over here. Service clients. Service clients. It's this one over here. Probably what's happening is that this DB is not doesn't work very well. Probably that's what it is. The DB is not working very well. The Mongo.js was not able to connect, probably because the service clients is not being instantiated. Perhaps let's install a Rock Mongo. Let's install Rock Mongo. That's our our client to look at the remote database, right? So let's add that. Okay, and so that's a URL. That's how I can log in. Let me copy that to my cheat sheet. Sorry, am I getting annoying with that cheat sheet? Also, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna use the that env instead of using. Probably this is what's happening. Is I'm using that variable. Right, I'm probably using that variable, and it's not being concatenated correctly. So I'm just gonna copy it straight out. Where is it? MongoDB. Find MongoDB. Where's that URL? There it is. I'm going to copy it straight. I don't trust that variable. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to say that the URL is going to be equal to. Just take this out. I'm going to paste it here. Let me try that. Right, if it's undefined, then I know to use the other one. Okay, let me try this again. Let me push this again. Let me say git status. Okay, git commit. Let me say I can do a git diff will tell me the differences. It says, okay, you remove this and you replace it with this. Okay, very good. So I'm going to say git commit don't trust the process env. I'm going to say push this. Git push. Let's see if it's that. Also, we could use rock Mongo to see if the database is actually there. Okay. Let's try it again. All right. Oh, still. Let me see what rock Mongo tells me. Let me see rock Mongo. What does it say? It is rock Mongo. I'm going to start it. I need to copy. Let me start this. Run it. The username is admin. And the password. That's the password. And say login. Okay. And there it is. That's the database. Isn't that the database we said we were using? Isn't that the database? Case. That's it, isn't it? Why are you not connecting? MongoJS connection string. Is this? Do you not like this here? Point that out. To force the connection string to be that. MongoJS require MongoJS connection, MongoDB connection string, service clients, DB. Yeah. I'm sorry? Not append what? I'm sorry, say again? Without this? Right. Well, let me try that for a second. Git commit connection string. Oh, commit. Try that one more time.
define the collection name. We are defining the database name, right?
Yeah.
But we need to define the collection name. And which collection in that database is which collection?
Yeah, the collection we did, right? The collection is going to be service clients. Okay. Huh. Yeah, that is the database name. Yes. This is a table name, well, the collection name, and that's the well, I don't know if I'm if you want me to use the default one, which is applications. Is that the one that's there, the default? I believe so, right? The default one is applications. Applications. Let me see, just a second. Lectures, experiment, online IDE. What did I use here? Yeah, I used the name. IDE, blah, blah, blah. Online IDE. Why doesn't it like that? Admin, blah, blah, blah. Interesting. Why does it like that? Okay, what I did is that I used the same name as the application name. And so let me do that. Okay, one last chance. Come on, you can do it. Is that the name of the application? Yes, right? Applications. Is that what I called it? Applications, right? Yeah. All right, let's try this again. Yay! Okay, it didn't complain, right? All right, so by default, the name of the database is the same as the name of the application. So the application was called applications, right? So and there was a database already there called applications. Okay, that's what I did. All right, so if I say app one, I say add, that works. Okay. Add, so that's working. 3. Right, and I can select. Here's 1, and I can change that. Say update, that works. I can change 2. That works. I can remove. I can remove all of them. All right. So it's working remotely. It's using the remote database. Right. So it's working okay. Everybody follow that? Okay. All right. So the first half of the question was, how do we get it to work with remote database? Does that make sense? Anyway, you can come back to this and go through all my errors and do it right this time. Okay. The other second half of the question was, well, how do we make the source code available, right, online? So for for me or the TAs to get a hold of this, right? So we could look at your progress. Yes, right. And I had suggested that you would use a repository, right? An online repository, either something like GitHub or Bitbucket. Okay, either one, whichever you feel more comfortable. Both, you can use Git, right? So let me show you. I'm going to go to my GitHub account. Okay, and I'm going to create a new repository. I'm going to create a repository. Either, I mean, you could do one repository for all your projects, yes, or maybe one repository per project. Whichever you feel more comfortable, right? If you intend for a project to have life after this course, maybe you should have your project in its own repository, yes? Maybe one for experiments and one for the actual project, right? So you know what a project you might have others collaborating in your project. So I'm going to create a new repository, and I'm going to call it online apps, and say new. So wait, what? Oh, that was a search. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to say new. I'm gonna call it, say, online apps. I'm gonna say it's public. I'm gonna say create. And there's the URL if I want to ever share this with anybody. Okay, that's the URL. I copy that. I'm gonna paste it here in my cheat sheet. Okay, because I'm going to need to do, there's going to be now two repositories. One that OpenShift needs, right, for you to push your changes to, and that it uses to publish, right, to its servers. And then you're going to need another one that it's going to be public. The one in OpenShift is, it's not easy to share. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have our own repository that you're going to be updating every so often, right? So you're running the OpenShift is going to be your development environment. Sometimes it's going to be broken, a few times it's going to be broken, and as you get it to a stable state, you can publish to your repository, your public repository, so that others can participate. That makes sense? All right. So we're going to have these two repositories. We need to. What we need to do is to say, hey, Git, there is this new remote repository, right, that I want to push to. See, all the local stuff that I have in my source, in my local repository, I want to push it to a remote repository. Currently, it is configured so that if you say push, it will go to the default remote repository, which is OpenShift. Yes? If you just say push, without the name of repository, it'll go to the default remote repository, which is OpenShift. Yes? But I want to add a new one, a new remote repository, and I'm going to have to explicitly say push to this other remote repository to make it available to everybody else. That make sense? Everybody okay? All right. All right. So to do that, I always forget what the commands are. But it's here's a cheat sheet. Okay, what we're going to do is use this command. Where you have your OpenShift, you're gonna say, hey Git, I want to add a new remote repository. I want to call it, I'm going to give it the name of the repository I just created. What did I call it? Oh man, did I leave? Don't. I think I call it what? Online apps or something? Oh, that's why I have my cheat sheet here, right? So I'm going to remove this OpenShift. I'm going to replace that. There it is. And they want the URL of the remote repository, which is the one I copied, right? It's this one. That's the Git URL of that I want to point to. It says, okay, add this new remote repository. There it is. I added it. Okay. And then where's my there's nothing to merge, because I would merge if that repository already had stuff, already had source code. There's a brand new repository. I don't need to merge anything. Okay. But if I would need to merge, I would use this command. What I need to do is push. I want to push. Right. I'm going to paste it here. So my two commands are this. And then the push. My command, I want to be able to say push. I say git push. If I only say git push, where's that going to go? To OpenShift, right? That's my default repository. Over here, I need to explicitly say I want to publish to online apps. Online. I just created that remote repository. I just created it, right? I added it, right? I want to push to online apps. What is that? Online apps currently has nothing, right? Where is it? Did I close it? It was online apps. Right now it's empty. There's nothing there. Right, there's no source code. If I ask for code, there's nothing. It's empty. Right, I'm about to push. Right, I say push everything all the way to the end, to the head. Right, everything. Right, push everything. It needs. It's asking me to log in. Sorry. It's pushing 41%, 45%, 97%. Finally, it's done. If I go back here and I refresh, there it is. All the source code is available for online, right? Here's my server.js, right? There it is. Okay, that's my server.js. I have my public with my index, right? Here's my controller, right? So as you blog, right, and as you add stories in your weekly experiments, what you would do is you would document what you learned, right? You document in the .NET application, right? And you create stories that link back to these files that are now available online. That makes sense, right? Now, Git, right? I mean, the beauty of Git that not only does it allow to to store files remotely and allows collaboration. You could have multiple users working on the same project, which is pretty cool. You could also track the statistics, right? How much who has done what recently, right? You can look at files, how they have changed over time, right? What did you last do, right? And you can see how a file changes over time, which is pretty cool. So right now it says that this is the only activity that has happened recently. Is everybody okay? All right. So we answered both questions, right? How do I get what I'm working on locally? How do I push it to OpenShift? We did that. Now you would continue doing all your work on the OpenShift directory. I'm sorry that we kind of did it backwards, right? I guess we should have done is you started with OpenShift, right, and start adding stuff to OpenShift and keep pushing. Yes. Instead, what we did is we ran something local, but this is actually very common. Oh look, I have a prototype running on my machine. Well, I want to deploy it. I said, oh wow, how do I deploy it? I need to make it friendly to the particular environment where this is going to run. Obviously, this is going to be different if you host it elsewhere, right? If you host it in Rackspace or Heroku, or you host it, whatever other environment, it'll have its own, right, environment variables. The environment will be different, yes, but it's the same idea, though, right? Basically, you need to know what the URLs is going to be, the domains are going to be, the IP addresses, the ports. Everybody okay? Everybody good? All right. All right. Okay. Let's now work on something brand new. How much time do I have? All right. Okay. Let's see. I don't need this anymore. This is my old version, right? Which I'm not going to look at anymore. So this is my brand new version. My brand new version. All right. Okay. All right. Notice that we have this service clients service. Yes. Now this server.js. Now not only that, this is not the only entity. This is not the only table, right, or collection we're going to have in our database, right? Usually we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 tables, right, related to one another. Now, how many lines of code or how many services do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5, right? The 4 CRUD operations, right? Create, read, update, delete, plus the 5th one, read all. Yes? Well, if I'm going to add a new collection, I'm going to have another 5 of these, right? And for each new table, I'm going to have another 5 and 5. This server.js is going to get pretty big, right? Pretty unwieldy, right? Especially if you start having a large project and you have people collaborating, right? And you want to break this up and say, okay, you work on this, on this part of the project. I'll work on this other part of the project. If it's on one file, we're going to be trampling on each other. So ideally, what we want to be able to do is break this up into smaller pieces so that we can divvy it up, right? So to do that, Node.js allows you to break up code you know, just like this. See this Express and MongoJS? They allow you to break up into libraries, into what we call modules, right? Node.js allows you to break up large projects into smaller modules that you can then load and require dynamically. Okay, so for the services here, for the service clients, I really don't like that name. I really don't like that name. Is it okay if I change it to just applications? Okay, can I change it real quick? I'm gonna do a I'm gonna change this. Watch me break everything, and it'll be the end of it. Applications. This is an online application builder, right? I would love my collection to be called applications, right? My collection to be called that. So my database is called applications, and my main collection is also called applications. So it's kind of be a little weird, right? So I'm gonna replace that. Replace next. Applications. Okay. Close that. Also, I'm going to my actual collections. I'm going to rename it. I don't like this service clients. I'm going to replace this. I'm going to replace that also with applications. Replace it that here. Change it there. Change it there. There. Okay. Where else do I need to change it? The client, right? The client is making all these calls here. Yes. Let me go really quick. The client, and the client lives where? In the controller, right? Somewhere in the controller. Where is that? There it is. Controllers. So all these service clients really is applications. Applications. Replace. Okay. Where else? Where else do we want to change it? Let's leave it that. Let's leave it like that. I'm going to break too many things. All right. Let's try it locally before I push it. Now let's see what I broke. Let's see if this blows up. Node server JS. Let me try it locally. Is this local? Yes. Okay. All right. It's empty because hopefully that it's just because the table was empty. There are no that particular collection is empty, right? So app1. Oops. We broke something. Let me see. Console. Applications. Slash applications. What's it saying? It says blah blah blah. Node MongoJS yada yada yada. Mongo client da da da. Utils MongoDB server 481. Yeah, I don't want to debug this. Let me quickly go back. I'm sorry. I don't want to waste your time debugging. Oh, okay. This is probably what's happening. Right, it's not able to connect it locally, right? Probably that's what's happening. Anyway, I'm not gonna try to fix this locally. Let me try this again. Okay, we're back in business. All right, back in business. Anyway, so let me show you how to make a module, how to create a module. Okay, right? Let me create a module. So what I want to be able to do is not have all these things all crammed into server.js. Yes, I want to separate that into separate Node.js module. All right, so I can break it up into smaller pieces. Right. So let's do that. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this in public features services server.js. I'm going to save it here. Notice that. Where did I save it? Right. I saved it, right, under features / that particular feature, right? That directory is going to have my controller, right, all the UI, right, everything that has to do with that particular feature, right? the server, the UI, the controller, right, everything's going to be in one single place, so I can find it. If I ever want to debug something, right, for that particular feature, it'll be all in one particular directory. Yes, the client is there, the HTML is there, the server is there, everything is there. Okay, all right. So I'm going to blow away most of everything. The only thing I want to keep here, is the DBs things here, the database stuff, right? All the things that are part of retrieving data from a database, right? I don't want to listen to anything. Okay. And then what I want to be able to do, so this is the code that I wanted to extract, right? This is the code that I wanted to extract from here, from servers, right? All this code, right? All this stuff, right? I wanted to extract all this stuff, right? And there it is. I extracted it. It's here. Yes, I extracted it. And what I'm going to do to make it available to be loaded dynamically from the main server file, to be able to include it from the main server file, what we do is basically we're going to say module dot exports equal function. Right, basically it's a constructor. Okay. Right. What this does is that it adds to the exports of the module. Module is a keyword in Node.js, right? It's an object that allows you to add things to the module list, right? Of which we already have a couple, right? We already have which ones? We have require, we have express, right? That they too exported themselves to be loaded dynamically using the require mechanism, right? Now that we did the same thing, we could use the mechanism. We can say, we can load our own. We can say, what is it called? This is inside of what? Services, or actually, I want to call it applications. Applications, right? And it'll be under where? Under / public features. What else we have? Services server.js. Right, that makes sense. Basically, what I did is I took the code, I moved it to a separate file. I exported it so that I could load it back in, right, from Node.js. That makes sense? Right, it's very much like, if you have a large C++ file, right? What do? You take all the code, you put it in a separate file, and then you put the includes, right? Same thing, right? Same idea. And I'm gonna remove it from here because I already have it over there. So I don't need any of this, right? I'm just gonna remove all this because I copied it in the other file. And remove it from here. There it is. I removed it. Okay. So now my file is much smaller, right? It's more manageable. That's it. I loaded applications. What does that load? It loads this function. I need to run the function. Right? I need to run the function. I need to run the function to instantiate it. Right? I need to run it after I have, what's that function? What's this going to need? It's going to need what? App? It doesn't have app. You see that? It doesn't have DB. What else doesn't it have? It doesn't have, let's see. It doesn't have Mongo.js. These are dependencies, right? That I need to pass it, right? So I'm going to pass it as an argument in a constructor. I'm going to pass it app. I'm going to pass it DB. I'm going to pass it Mongo.js. I'm going to pass it when I instantiate it. Right? I'm going back here. Right? I don't have app yet, right? What do I have app? Down here. And I don't have DB yet. Where's DB? It's down here. Now I have app, I have DB, and I have Mongo.js, right? So I'm ready to call applications and pass it the app/db/Mongo.js. Okay? I loaded it. Now that I have, now my application is the function, right? It's that constructor. Now I am executing that constructor, passing it the arguments, right? What's that going to do? It's going to create all the, right, all the services. Yes, it's going to create all the services and tie them to these functions that are going to execute, right, and going to write into a database. All right, let's say if we broke something. Let's stop the server. Let's run it again locally, and let's refresh this. Looks like it's still working, right? It didn't blow up. Let's see if we can remove. We can remove. You can say app 123. Looks like that's still working. Can we change that to 234? Update. So it looks like it's working, right? So let's push it. Let's push it remotely, right? And say, let's say git status. See if there's any new files. Yes, there's a new file, server.js under the feature services. Yes, right? So I say git add dot, right? And git status. Okay, there we go. So we're going to commit -m. What did I do? I created a module, right? You know, created application module. Commit, and I'm going to push it. All right, let's see. Let's try it remotely. Let's try the server remotely, see if we broke anything. Come on, okay. Let's try remotely. Where is it? It's this one, I believe, right? Let's refresh. Oops. Looks like we broke something. Servers, clients not available. What do we do? Do we break something? Oh, is it this stupid thing over here? that you know, works locally but not remotely. Let me try it again. Commit again, and let's push again. Okay, come on, come on. All right, let's try remotely again. Which one is remotely? No, that's not it, right? There we go. Oh, man. Service clients / service clients. Did I change service clients? I didn't, did I? Did I change that? I didn't change it. Service clients. It's the same service clients. DB MongoJS. Why don't you work remotely? Oh, did I change this? Wasn't this applications? Did I do an undo? Maybe I must have done an undo, right? Okay. I must have done one too many undo. All right, while that's pushing, another thing that we could do is see this controller. A controller, the only thing a controller should be responsible of, right, is manipulating the data model, right? Receiving events from the user, such as clicks, right, as they're interacting with the UI, and then converting those clicks into access to the data model, right? You know, wherever that data model is being stored, okay? The fact that it's literally going to the URL to fetch this, okay? It is a bad practice to mix this in, right? There should be an intermediate layer here, okay, that separates the controller from the data access, right? Whether that data access is, to some local, is it remotely, is however, is it a local data model, right? Is it a local cache, right? Am I getting it from a remote system? That should be irrelevant to the controller, okay? So ideally, this would go through a service layer, right? Which we're going to add in a second. Let's see if that fixed it. Let's try it again. Okay, that worked. Let's see if it works. App 1, add. Okay, that's okay. We're back in business. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move this into a service, right? Instead of having it mixed in here. Okay, we're going to put it outside. Okay, we're going to put it outside. Right. Okay, let's see. So let's create something else that we want to fix is, I'm not sure if you've been reading about Angular, right? So it's the same idea that we want to modularize the server, right, and create modules. We want to do the same thing in Angular, right? We're not going to have just one controller, right? Usually you're going to have a controller being responsible for a subset of your UI, right? You might have many pages, right? So you might have many controllers, yes? So again, you want to be able to work with modules, right, with small pieces, and be able to divvy up the work and say, well, you work on this module and I work on that other module, right? So let's do that. Let's make this a little more modular, right? To do that, let's go back here. Let's go back to our index. Okay, let's go back to our index. Right. All right. What we want to be able to do first. Well, first I'm going to remove this messages because I don't need it. Oh, did we push this to the to our remote? We didn't, right? So nobody can actually see. Our TA can't see any of our changes, right? He's wondering. We've been working very, for the whole week, and then he doesn't see the actual changes, right? So we better make it available to him, right? If we go to the code, we see the code. We'll notice that none of our changes of our nicely modular server is there anymore. Notice that here in the features services, there should be a server.js. Yes, it's not there. So let's push that. All right, let's go to our cheat sheet. Copy that. Paste that. We're going to push it not to OpenShift. It's going to push it to, what's it called? Online apps. Thank you. Online apps. There you go. Okay, push. If you reload this, notice that server.js is there. Yes? And then you would document, right? You would create a nice document that would explain why you did that, right? Now, just splitting this into a module, that on itself is an experiment, right? Just splitting that into server.js, so that's a legitimate experiment, right? And you can explain, right, in one page, explain why you did it. Right? It's a good practice to break this up into, smaller modules. Yes. Okay. So let's do that. The same thing for the UI, right? So let's first remove that. Your question? Okay. So we want to be able to do this ng app. What we're going to do here, right? We're going to usually it's often we use this instead, right? Instead of putting it in the body, to put it here in the HTML and give it a name for a module. Right, we're going to give it a name for this module, and the module is going to be online apps. Okay, we're going to give our application a name, right? And then we're going to be able to configure these this application and say and tell it, hey, not only do you have one controller, you have a whole bunch of controllers. Okay, one per page, for instance. Okay, all right, so let's do that. We're going to load a. We're going to load we need to create the module that defines this application. let's do that. So let's create a brand new JavaScript here. We're going to put it under JS. A very common name for the application is app.js, not to be confused with this app. Right, remember, this is on the server side, right? This is on the client side, right? There's a client side application and there's a server side application. They talk to one another through HTTP. Yes? Okay. Unfortunately, the names are very common on both ends. Right? To use app on the client side, and it's also app on the server side. I'm sorry. just make sure you don't confuse the two. Right? All right. So what do we put in this app.js? Right? We need to configure this online apps. Okay. Right. Let's create a new one. Let's create a new JavaScript, and I'm going to save it in public JS. Notice the client, right? I'm going to call it app.js, app.js. And let me look at my cheat sheet over here, and we can look at the Angular JS modules documentation. And basically, where is it? There it is. Here's how you create your module for your application. Right? Let's copy that. Okay, we're going to say var app Angular module, and we called it what? Online apps. Is that the name? I think that's the name of our application. Yes? Right? And what we're going to do, we're going to say, well, Angular, not only are you a module, but you have controllers, right? And the controllers we can, where's controller? Controller. Controller. Oh. Script. Value. Controller. There it is. Controller. We're going to declare a controller app. Controller. What was the name? The name of the controller for that page? What's it called? There it is. Service controller. I don't like the name. Oh man. I really don't like the name. Let me call it applications control. How's that? Applications controller. And I don't want to break this. Now that I have that, now that I declared it here, and app has been declared where? Is when you load app.js. So by the time you load app.js, right? By the time you load app.js, we're going to have the app instantiated, correct? Right? So we're going to have app instantiated. By the time we load controllers.js, here it is. What we're going to do, instead of having its own function all by itself, we're going to put it inside of the app. We're going to put it inside of the app. We're going to say app.controller. Now we're going to give it a name. What is it? Applications controller. Was it application controller? Is that what I called it? Copy. I'm going to paste that, right? And I'm going to say that's my function. Function and the same name. Right? And I'm going to close here. And close here. Okay. Application controller, okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I think that's it. Right? Now, what this allows us to do is, one of the problems in JavaScript, right, is that because you can load so many JavaScripts, right, and you're loading one from Netflix, you're downloading one from Google, you're downloading one from Yelp, you're downloading from a whole bunch of places, right? And each one is free to declare any function, any variable, right? And the problem is that you can very easily get into name collisions, right? You declare a service controller, and they declare a service controller, right? So it says, well, which one is it? Is it yours or theirs? Typically, it's the last one that got loaded, right? In the order of the file loading, right? In the order of the file loading, right? The last one that gets loaded wins, right? And it redefines whatever you had earlier. It's not going to tell you, oh, you have a name collision, right? It was just going to override it, right? So what modules allow you to do? What modules allow you to do is expose only as little as possible, right? Any names. So for instance, the only name that we're going to expose, the only variable, the only JavaScript variable that we're going to expose is this one, app. That's it. That's the only one that we're going to expose, right? And any controllers, right? Anything is going to be under this one namespace, right? So we're not going to have 2, 3, 4, 20 controllers, each one with its own function name, right? The way we had it, right? We had one function. Well, our application is not sophisticated enough, right? It only had one controller. It had one UI, right? It's pretty lame. But as we get more extensive, it's going to have many more files, right? It's going to have many more controllers, and the namespace is going to get bigger, right? So it's better to get started and put everything in one single place, under one single namespace, the app namespace. Everybody okay? Everybody, all right? Okay. So that's what controllers does. Let me see if this broke. Let me run it locally. Node server. Okay. And locally, is this locally? Yes. Let's refresh this. Oops. Is this server? Oops, what happened here? Oh. Ugh. The server, where's the server? Wants to connect to the local database. The local database is called CS, right? Try it again. Okay, it looks like it's working. All right, let's try again, see if this blows up. Add. It looks like it's working. Okay, and remove works. Okay. All right, so I'm happy. I'm going to push it with the caveat. Hopefully, this won't break my remote machine here with this if statement. I hope it'll work right now. Right. I'm going to do a git status. See if we added something. Yes, we added app.js. Yes, we added add.js. We modified control.js. We modified index.html. We modified server.js. We're going to say git add. Say git commit Angular. So the name is what we added. Before we added Node.js modules. Yes, right. Now what we did is we did Angular modules. Commit, and we're going to do a git push. Okay. And let's try to hit this remotely now. Okay, remotely, it's this one over here, right? We're going to hit it. Let's see. Okay, it works. All right, so now it works remotely and locally without modification. Good. Right, and I can add app3. So app4 and so on and so forth. Okay, it works. I can remove. Awesome. Okay. All right. What else? What else could we do? Let's see. So basically, what we did is modularize this, right? Modularize it into Node.js modules and Angular modules. One more thing. There's one more architectural thing that we should do, right? We said earlier that we should not be using these guys over here, right? We shouldn't be using it locally like this. Instead, what we should create is some kind of service that will give us a nice API, right? That will allow us to that will hide the details of accessing this remotely. Before we do that, before we do it, I want to introduce another topic that I want to explain the problem first. Okay, the problem is that you see how index.html loads main.js. You see that, right? And that's very common, right? That before we publish, we minify everything, right? Well, what does that do? That's going to clobber our variable names, right? It's going to make our variable names as small as possible, right? Our function names are going to be small. Our variable names are going to be small, right? All white spaces are going to be removed, again, to make the file as small as possible, right? To make the download faster. Everybody okay? Why we minify, right? Well, guess what is going to happen to controller.js when we minify? You see any variable names here? What are the variable names? Well, one of them is going to be scope, right? And the other one is going to be HTTP. Yes? Those are variable names. But someone is depending on those variables to be called $scope and $HTTP. Okay? Angular is depending on those variables, say the names, $scope and $HTTP. Right? Because what Angular uses is a mechanism called dependency injection, right? That by name, it discovers that you want this variable, right? That you need this service, right? It parses the function. It sees that you have arguments called HTTP, $HTTP. It says, oh, you need it. I will pass it to you. But it's going to break when we minify, right? It's going to rename this to, I don't know, old garb, put something, ASD or whatever, right? Now it's going to break dependency injection. It's going to break dependency injection. Okay, right? So to deal with this, Angular uses several techniques, right? There's several techniques to deal with this problem. To deal with this problem, one, I need to know the name of the service that I need, right? And second, I don't want the minification mechanism to clobber my variable names, right? Well, thankfully, there's something that will not be clobbered. Strings are not going to be clobbered, right? Because those are meant for humans to read, not right? Not for computers to read. It's meant to be for humans to read, right? So the minification mechanisms will not clobber literal strings. Okay, so using that idea, what Angular does is that says, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this technique. I'm going to, instead of just passing a function, I'm going to pass an array of the dependencies. I'm going to tell you the dependencies that I need in quotations, so that these are not going to be clobbered by the minification mechanism, right? So that my controller method, when it reads this as an array, it says, oh, you need scope and you need HTTP, right? That's not going to be clobbered because it's in a literal string, right? Now that I know what you need, I will pass it to you in that order. In that order. So meaning you want scope first and you want HTTP second, right? Now, I'm not going to look at the names of these functions, of these variables. I'm only going to look at the order in which they appear in the function, right? So that I will first pass scope as first, and then this as second. So that when it minifies, it doesn't matter that these get clobbered. It doesn't matter. I will call you as a function with first the scope and second the HTTP. That makes sense? In the order in which they are declared. That makes sense? Right? So I'm passing the function without the name. And I'm going to, now I need to close the array. I close that array. Let's see if this blows up. Let's try it again. Locally, node server. Okay, and let's try it locally. Refresh. Okay, still works, right? Still works. App, add, Okay, remove. Okay, all these works. I'm going to push it. Git status. See if we changed anything. Okay, it's just that. And we can say git diff to see what we changed. Okay, it says we changed that, yeah, and then at the bottom, that's correct. So we can commit. So we're going to say handling minification or surviving minification, right? Surviving minification. Commit, and we push, git push, see if it doesn't break. So we're going to go remote. Here's remote. See if that breaks. Come on. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, we survived, right? We say app, add, we can remove. Okay, it works, right? And I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it to, what was it called? Online apps? Was that the name? I'm going to push it so that you can see it. Push it. It pushed it. Let me make sure that it made it. I'm going to refresh. If I go to controllers, there it is, right? Scope HTTP has the latest, right? What I'm going to do now, I'm going to give this URL. I'm going to add it in Piazza. For Piazza, and I'm going to go to 5610 and go to resources. Oh, you have a lot of. I got to answer there, right? I have a lot of questions. Resources, the books, website, tools. Did I have a lectures? Oh, there it is. So add. So this is, I'll call it publishing to OpenShift lecture, right? And this is a code. There's a code, and I will also publish the video. All right, later on. Let's say post link. Actually, I might have there it is, right? For tonight. So if you click on that, you see the source code. There it is. That's the source code. And the video, if I go here, I think I should be able to take that video and go to Piazza, and I should be able to say publishing. Oops, I'm not printing. At link. Publishing to OpenShift video. Paste. Right, and that's it. All right. All right. Any questions?
All right, so I think this week, if you intend to be using OpenShift and MongoDB, you should be focusing on pushing this online, making experiments on do baby steps. Start with something really, really, really simple, right? And each baby step is good enough for an experiment. Okay. Here's my Hello World OpenShift application. That's an experiment. Okay, I'm gonna blow it away. I'm gonna do a /env. That's an experiment, right? Okay, let me add and try to hit return a JSON object back. That's an experiment, right? Let me try and add something to the database. That's an experiment. You should have done like 20 experiments, right? Very easily, okay? Right? Especially if you're pushing to GitHub. GitHub gives you the history. It shows you exactly what you changed from one to the next, right? If you commit every time you make an right? It keeps track of everything that you change. So it should be easy for you to document exactly, right, what you changed from one experiment to the next, right? All right. Thank you.